happens when experienced hunters disappear without a trace in the Appalachian Mountains. When search parties comb the woods for weeks and find nothing, no bodies, no blood, just empty forest. When the one man who makes it back can't speak, can't explain, can only scream. The man in this story was part of a hunting group near the Blue Ridge Mountains in October 2024. 5 men went into the woods for their annual deer hunting trip. Only one came out. Some locals in the area talk about something they call the Whistler, an entity that's been taking people from those mountains for generations. Listen to this story because what happened to these hunters is far beyond disappearing. Welcome to Unexplained Accounts, a place where the ordinary fades into shadow and the unexplainable comes alive. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and become part of our ever-growing community of the curious. Hunters keep disappearing in Appalachia. The one who returned can't stop screaming. I'm writing this because my therapist says it might help me sleep. I don't think anything will help, but I'm trying. My name is Marcus Webb, and I've been hunting in the Appalachian Mountains for 20 years. I grew up in Johnson City, Tennessee, and I know these woods better than most people know their own neighborhoods, or at least I thought I did. Every October since 2009, my hunting group made the same trip. 5 of us, same spot, same week. We'd camp near Watauga County, North Carolina, just outside the boundary of Pisgah National Forest. It's remote out there, thick hardwoods and ridges that go on forever, but we'd been using the same trails and campsites for 15 years. We knew every creek crossing, every rock formation, every good spot to glass for deer. The group was me, Dave Hollister, Tom Chen, Rick Vasquez, and James Porter. We all met through work at a manufacturing plant in Kingsport. Dave was the oldest at 52, the one who got us all into hunting. The trip this past October was supposed to be like every other year. A week in the woods, away from phones and families and everything else. The first night, everything was normal. We set up camp around 5 p.m., got the tents squared away, built a fire. Dave cooked venison chili he'd brought in a cooler. We sat around talking about work, about the rut starting early this year, about Tom's new rifle, normal stuff. By 10 p.m., most of us were in our tents. Around 10:30 p.m., I heard it for the first time. It sounded like whistling, but wrong. Too low, too steady. Not a tune exactly, more like a rhythm. 3 long notes, then silence, then 3 more. At first, I figured it was wind coming through the rocks on the ridge above us, but the air was still, no breeze at all. I unzipped my tent and saw Dave standing by the fire, looking toward the tree line. He heard it too. Tom came out a minute later, then Rick. We stood there listening. The sound moved, circling our camp slowly, always staying just beyond the light. From the fire, when it passed behind Rick's tent, his dog started whining. Rick had brought his beagle, Copper, like he did every year. Copper hunted fearlessly, never spooked by anything. But now he was pressed against the back of Rick's tent, tail tucked, refusing to come out even when Rick called him. Dave grabbed a flashlight and walked toward the sound. The second the beam hit the trees, the whistling stopped. Complete silence, not even insects. Dave said we should pack up and leave in the morning. We didn't leave. The next morning, the woods felt off. The light looked flat, gray, like the sun wasn't reaching through the canopy right. Too quiet. No birds, no squirrels, nothing. The temperature was wrong too, colder than it should have been for mid-October. We split up to scout hunting positions. I went with Tom, heading west along a game trail we'd used before. About a quarter mile in, we found a trail marker nailed to a tree. Orange plastic, the kind hunters use. But it wasn't on our maps, and we'd never seen it before. We followed it. After maybe another 200 yards, we came on an old hunting blind. Ladder stand, about 12 feet up, still strapped to an oak tree. There was gear at the base, a Remington 700 leaning against the tree, a backpack, unzipped, a small cooler. The rifle had a light coat of rust. The backpack had clothes inside, a headlamp, batteries. The cooler still had food in it, rotted and covered in mold. 2, maybe 3 weeks old. No signs of a struggle, no blood. Just everything left behind, like someone had stepped away for a minute and never came back. On a tree about 10 feet away, someone had carved symbols into the bark. Circles, lines running through them, triangles stacked inside each other. Looked deliberate, not random. And below that, carved deep, a name and date. Jenkins, 10/20/24. I took photos with my phone. Tom said we should report it when we got back to town. We hiked back to camp and told the others. Dave went pale when I showed him the pictures. Rick pulled out his phone. We had 1 bar of service if you stood on the ridge. He found a news article dated October 9th. Local hunter missing in Pisgah National Forest. Family seeks information. The photo matched the name on the tree. Robert Jenkins, 47, from Boone. Last seen October 7th. Tom said we should hike out and report it, but we'd driven 6 hours to get here, and deer season was only open 2 more weeks. We decided to give it 1 more day. That decision might have killed us all. That night around 9:01 p.m., the sun dropped faster than it should have. 1 minute there was still light filtering through the trees. The next it was dark, full dark, like someone had flipped a switch. The whistling started again, closer this time. It circled our camp, moving clockwise, slow and deliberate. It wasn't wind, it was intelligent. Every time it passed behind a tent, it would pause for a few seconds, then continue. 3 long notes, silence, 3 more. Dave stood up. He grabbed his maglite and his Winchester. Rick told him to sit down, said it was probably just some kids messing with us. Dave didn't listen. He walked toward the tree line, following the sound. We heard him yell, "What the?" Then nothing. We ran out there. His flashlight was on the ground, still lit, beam pointing into the woods. His rifle was leaning against a poplar tree, safety still on, unfired. We followed his boot prints with our lights. They went about 20 feet into the woods, clear in the soft dirt. Then they stopped. Just stopped. No drag marks, no signs of a scuffle, no blood. The prints ended like he'd stepped off the edge of the earth. We called his name for 30 minutes. Tom wanted to go deeper into the woods to look for him. I grabbed his arm, told him we'd search at first light. It was too dark, too dangerous. The 4 of us got into the biggest tent, Rick's 6-person. We sat with our backs together, facing outward. Copper stayed pressed against Rick's leg, shaking. The whistling kept going all night, moving around us in slow circles, sometimes so close I could feel it in my chest. At 3:17 a.m., I checked my watch. Something brushed against the side of the tent, long, slow, like fingers dragging across the nylon. Then we heard breathing, heavy, wet, right outside. It moved along the tent wall, paused at the door, then continued around. Nobody moved, nobody spoke. Just before dawn, it stopped. When the sun came up, we packed everything we could carry and started hiking out. We never should have waited. We didn't make it. The trail we'd used to come in was gone. I mean, completely gone. The path we'd walked 2 days before, the one we'd used for 15 years, wasn't there anymore. Just thick undergrowth and deadfall. Our GPS units showed us in the middle of nowhere, no trails marked. The compasses on our phones spun in circles, wouldn't settle on north. We tried navigating by the sun, but the angle was wrong. It should have been southeast at that time of morning, but it looked almost directly overhead. We walked for 3 hours, kept finding the same rock outcropping, the one shaped like a split tooth. On our 4th pass, there was something tied to it, a red bandana, Dave's red bandana, the one he always kept in his back pocket. He wasn't wearing it when he disappeared. Rick said we were being herded, played with. James didn't say anything, just kept walking, eyes down. Tom looked worse, pale and sweating, even though it was cold. We stopped around 2 p.m. to regroup. Tom stood up suddenly, started screaming at the woods, yelling that he knew something was out there, that it should show itself, that we weren't afraid. Rick tried to calm him down. Tom shoved him away and took off down a narrow path. We chased him. He was faster, panicked. We lost sight of him after maybe 2 minutes. 10 minutes later, we found his pack. It had been ripped open, contents scattered across the ground, but not random. His spare clothes, his knife, his water bottles, all arranged in a perfect circle. Tom was gone. There was blood on a tree branch above the circle, fresh, still wet. The branch was 8, maybe 9 feet off the ground. The whistling started again, in daylight this time. I saw it moving between the trees to our left, something pale, too tall, keeping pace with us. Every time I turned to look directly at it, it slid behind a trunk, but I could see it in my peripheral vision, thin, wrong. Sorry for the quick interruption. I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for being part of Unexplained Accounts. Lately, the channel hasn't been shown as much across this platform, so if you're enjoying this story, please take a second to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Your support really helps new listeners discover these stories and keeps the channel going strong. Now, let's get back to this story. We kept moving until dark. Just before the light failed completely, we stumbled into a clearing. There was a building there, old hunting lodge or maybe a ranger station. Wood siding, green metal roof sagging in the middle, windows dark. It looked abandoned. The door was unlocked. Inside smelled like mildew and rot. There was a table with plates still on it, food long gone to dust, chairs knocked over, calendars on the wall from 1979, 1980, newspapers stacked by the door, yellowed and brittle. Someone had left in a hurry. James said we should stay the night. It was shelter, 4 walls, better than being outside. Rick and I agreed. 3 of us left now. I found a logbook on a shelf near the back. Ranger logs, hunting reports, maintenance notes. I flipped to the last entry, October 15th, 1983. The handwriting was shaky, pressed hard into the paper. The whistling started 3 nights ago. Morrison is gone. We can see it now during the day. Stay inside after dark. It can't come in if you don't. The entry stopped mid-sentence. 41 years ago, the same thing happened here. Rick was looking at the walls. Someone had carved symbols into the wood. Circles, intersecting lines, triangles within triangles. The same marks we'd seen on the trees. He called us over to a back room. There was a setup against the far wall that looked like a shrine. Old candles in glass jars, blackened from soot. Animal bones tied together with twine. And photographs. Dozens of them, pinned to the wall, missing people. I recognized Jenkins from the news article. Others I didn't know. Rick opened a closet door. He stopped, leaned in. "There's a door here," he said. "Goes underground." I told him to leave it alone. He pulled it open anyway. The smell hit us immediately. Rot and copper and something sweet, like fruit left to ferment. Rick grabbed his flashlight and started down the stairs. James yelled at him to stop. Rick kept going. We heard his boots on wooden steps, then concrete. Then he yelled once, cut short. Silence. James and I ran to the doorway. I could see Rick's flashlight, beam moving erratically at the bottom, swinging side to side. Then it went out. Rick screamed, but it wasn't his voice. Too deep, wrong pitch. Like something was using his throat. The scream continued for maybe 5 minutes, mechanical and steady, like a recording stuck on loop. Then it stopped. The basement door slammed shut. I tried the handle. It wouldn't move. James grabbed my arm and said we had to leave. I agreed. But when we tried the front door, it wouldn't open either. We were trapped inside. For the next 3 hours, something circled the lodge. We could hear it on the porch, heavy footsteps moving from one end to the other. back and forth. The whistling surrounded us, coming from every direction at once. I checked my watch, 8:00 p.m. The windows went dark, not normal dark, but black, like something was pressed against the glass from outside. James and I sat in the main room, backs against each other, facing opposite directions. We had one flashlight between us. The scratching started on the walls, slow and deliberate, then on the roof, directly above us. Around 9:30 p.m., we heard a voice outside. "Marcus, James, let me in, I'm hurt." It was Rick's voice, exactly Rick's voice, crying, begging, saying he'd gotten away, that he was bleeding, that he needed help. James started to stand. I grabbed his jacket, pulled him back down. "That's not him," I said. The voice kept pleading. Then it changed. Dave's voice now, saying he was lost, asking why we'd left him. Then Tom's voice, screaming that something was chasing him, that we had to open the door. All three of them, our dead friends, calling for help from outside. James covered his ears. His hands were shaking. At 10:15 p.m., the scratching stopped. The voices went silent. Complete silence, so heavy it hurt my ears. Then a face appeared in the window to my left. Pale gray skin too wide. The eyes were white at first, no pupils, just white. Then they shifted to red, then black. The mouth opened. Rows of teeth, not like fangs, just too many of them, small and sharp. It had to crouch to look through the window, 7 feet tall, maybe more. The proportions were wrong. Jaw too long, extending past where it should end. Neck too thin to support the head. It stared at us. I heard breathing, wet and rhythmic. It spoke in Rick's voice. "Let me in." Neither of us moved. Time felt broken. Maybe it watched us for 10 minutes, maybe an hour. I couldn't tell anymore. Then it smiled. The mouth stretched wider than any human mouth should, nearly to the edges of its face. It backed away from the window and disappeared into the darkness. We heard it walking around the building again, slow and steady. James whispered, "What is that thing?" I didn't answer. I didn't know. But I knew it had our friends. At 11:47 p.m., the front door unlocked. We heard the deadbolt slide open. Neither of us moved. Then James ran. He bolted for the door before I could stop him, just jumped up and ran. I yelled his name. He got outside, ran hard toward the tree line. I stood in the doorway with my flashlight, watched him sprint across the clearing. He made it maybe 30 yards. Then he stopped running, just stopped, mid-stride, stood completely still, rigid. He turned around slowly. His face was blank, eyes reflecting my light, but flat. Not like an animal's eyes, which glow. These were dull, like mirrors that didn't work right. James walked back toward the lodge. The gate was wrong, mechanical, like someone learning to use legs for the first time. He reached the edge of the porch, stopped. His mouth opened and the whistle came out, that same 3-note rhythm. He kept walking, right past the lodge, into the woods on the other side. I watched until the darkness swallowed him. I slammed the door, locked it, stood there breathing hard. I was alone. It didn't just kill them. It took them, used them. From somewhere in the woods, I heard James's voice. "Marcus, come out. It's safe now." That wasn't James anymore. I sat with my back against the door. 3 options. Wait here until daylight, if daylight came. Run for it, knowing I wouldn't make it. Or go down to the basement, the only place I hadn't looked. I kept thinking about the logbook. It can't come in if you don't. Don't what? Invite it? Acknowledge it? Believe in it? Maybe the answer was underground. Maybe my friends were still down there. I checked my watch. 2:00 a.m. I forced the basement door open. The smell hit me again, rot and copper and something sweet like overripe fruit. The stairs descended into complete darkness. I heard something moving at the bottom. Something else too, breathing, human breathing. Maybe they were still alive. I went down. The stairs were steep and damp, slick with something I didn't want to identify. I counted 20 steps before the bottom. My flashlight battery was dying, the beam weak and yellow. The chamber opened up around me. Not built, carved. Stone walls, ancient, worn smooth like water had shaped them over centuries. The symbols were here too, carved deep into the rock. These were the originals. Everything else was copies. Candles were lit throughout the room, dozens of them. I didn't know who'd lit them. In the center was an altar made of stacked stones, personal items piled on top. I recognized Dave's wallet, Tom's watch, Rick's folding knife, James's baseball cap. Behind the altar there was an opening in the wall, a cave going deeper. That's where the breathing was coming from. I moved closer. The cave extended back maybe 15 feet. Inside, I saw them. Dave, Tom, Rick, James, all 4 of them sitting against the walls, upright, eyes open, alive but wrong. Their eyes were completely white. No pupils, no color, just white. They were breathing in perfect unison, slow and mechanical. I called their names. None of them responded. Their skin had a gray tint, pale and waxy. I grabbed Dave's arm, tried to pull him up. He was cold, stiff. His head turned slowly toward me. His mouth opened and the whistle came out. That 3-note rhythm. Then all 4 of them started whistling together. Perfect harmony. I backed away. Something moved in the darkness behind them. Something bigger. I heard it dragging itself forward. My light wouldn't reach that far, but I could see the outline. Tall, hunched, too many limbs, or limbs that bent wrong. It wasn't just tall. It was folded, like it didn't fit inside its own skin. The skin was gray-white, slick and wet-looking. For a moment, its face came into the light. Not one face. Many. Overlapping, shifting like they were layered on top of each other. I saw Rick's face slide across its skull, then disappear into the mass. Then Tom's, then Dave's. It didn't possess them. It absorbed them. It spoke. All 4 voices at once, layered and wrong. Stay. Join. Sing. I ran back to the stairs. It didn't follow. Just stood there in the cave, watching me with a dozen eyes that weren't its own. I slammed the trapdoor shut and ran out the front entrance. The sun was coming up. I didn't care. I ran until I hit the road. I don't remember how long it took. When the state police found me 3 hours later, I was still running. They picked me up on Highway 19E just outside Roan Mountain at 9:01 a.m. I was barefoot. My boots were gone, feet torn up and bleeding. I couldn't speak, couldn't form words. They took me to Sycamore Shoals Hospital in Elizabethton. I was treated for exposure, dehydration, lacerations on my feet and hands. When I could finally talk, I tried to tell them about my friends. They sent a search team, found our campsite 2 days later, abandoned, tents still up, gear scattered. They found the lodge. The basement door was open. The chamber was empty. No bodies, no belongings, no evidence anyone had been there. Just the symbols carved into stone. The GPS data from my phone showed me walking in circles for 2 days in a half-mile radius. Not 3 nights, 2 days. Time was wrong. After a week, they called off the search. Dave, Tom, Rick, and James were declared missing. Their families think I'm lying, that I know something I'm not telling them. Maybe I had a breakdown. The psychiatric evaluation said trauma-induced delusion. I'm living with my sister now in Johnson City. I can't go back to my apartment. Can't sleep. I hear the whistling sometimes late at night, faint, like it's coming from miles away. I wake up with dirt under my fingernails even though I don't remember going outside. My phone has hundreds of photos I don't remember taking. Most are black. One came out clear. The entity's face, multiple faces overlapping. The photo's date stamp says it was taken last night. I'm never going back to those mountains. But lately, I feel the pull. Dreams about the cave, the altar, My 4 friends whistling in the dark. Sometimes I catch myself whistling the same rhythm. I don't know what to think. Was it something ancient? Some Appalachian spirit that's been in those mountains since before settlers arrived? A demon summoned and never banished? Or something that's always been there, in the deep hollows, taking hunters and hikers who wander too far from marked trails? One thing's certain, something evil lives in those mountains. And if you hear whistling in the woods, don't follow it. And whatever you do, don't whistle back. And so, another strange encounter fades away. A trick of the mind or something far more unsettling. That's for you to decide. Thank you so much for watching my stories. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Your support is what keeps this channel going.